Get ready, it's our annual Year in Review edition of the program.
There was no threat of blackmail. There was no threat of a photograph in blackmail. Those things are absolutely false.
He accepts responsibility for his conduct and whatever punishment comes with it.
I'm honored to be here today in Kansas City, Missouri.
I think he needs reinforcements in Washington, D.C. Do you agree with that?
Obviously, we fell short, and that's disappointing.
This one just wasn't God's will.
The people of Kansas really spoke, and they spoke so loudly.
The time for people to not be heard and not be seen and not be listened to or represented well changes now.
Tragedy at Table Rock, a boat capsizing during a severe storm. 17 people are dead.
I think that Dr. King deserves a street that is fully named after him.
This is not art. This is a disgrace.
Another scooter company is rolling into town.
Shack Burger, Chicken Shack, regular fries, basic.
It's all about this guy.
Mahomes, he's going to try to get there on his own, and he does so with ease. Showtime.
Week in Review is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, Bob and Marlise Gorley, Smithfield Foods, Haas and Wilkerson Insurance, the Courtney S. Turner Charitable Trust, John H. Mize and Bank of America N.A. co-trustees, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Nick Haynes. Get ready for laughter, tears, astonishing insight, and heartwarming stories. Yes, we're pouring through the past 12 months here in our Metro in quiz show style and gazing into the crystal ball to take a look at what you can expect in 2019 in this place we call home. With us on this special holiday edition of the program, she is 50% of Dana and Parks on KMBZ, Dana Wright. Across town, Steve Kraske sits behind another microphone, keeping you up to date, 11 to noon, weekdays on KCUR-FM. Whenever important local news is happening, you can expect Kansas City Star columnist and editorial writer Dave Helling to be in the middle of the action, and also around the cozy confines of our Yuletide table from the world of television, 41 Action News reporter Stephen Dial. Steve Kraske, we begin with a multiple choice question.
Yes, sir.
For you. Of all the stories making news in Kansas City over the past year, which story had the greatest impact on our metro? And there's a lot of candidates. This was the year the Missouri governor resigned. In Kansas, Sharice Davids was making history. It was a year of tragedy, 17 people losing their lives, you may recall, as a duck boat capsizes on Tabletop Rock Lake. It was a year that saw voters approve medical marijuana in Missouri. And 2018 was a year filled with Mahomes mania. Or did you pick something completely different?
You know, Nick, you've got to be kidding me. This was the year of Patrick Mahomes. No story has galvanized this community like the new Chiefs quarterback. This town's on fire. This town's excited about the playoffs. This was the easiest question in the whole
Wow. Dana Wright, who did you put down?
I did too. How can you argue against Patrick Mahomes?
How can you?
And I want to start out with like a happy story. We can all get our arms around something that is good and happy, and he's lovely and amazing, and he passes out toys to children and goes shopping with underprivileged kids. And, you know, Scott, my partner on the radio, said the other day, is there anything this guy does that we don't like? The answer is no. I am thrilled for the city, thrilled for him. He can't go to Target anymore and, you know, buy toilet paper without being harassed by everyone around him. But he's 23 years old, and I think what a great ambassador for this city.
The greatest story with the greatest impact in our metro, Stephen, for you was what?
3 for 3, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this guy, once he got here, just the humility. He was humble when Alex Smith was still here, not taking any endorsements, things like that. Now he gets in the saddle as the starting quarterback, and you see his pictures on sweatshirts. Everyone's holding up signs. Dudes are getting tattoos of him. Patrick Mahomes owns the city right now.
Dave Helling, will you be showing your
Here we
tattoo
go. Here we go.
during this program?
Stop right here.
Patrick Mahomes will be next year's Man of the Year or Person of the Year if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Until that happens, he's just another story in Kansas City. I thought the one with the most impact, and it won't surprise anyone, it's political, was Chris Kobach's defeat in Kansas, Nick. Not so much Laura Kelly winning, because we'll see how she turns out to be as governor. But Governor Chris Kobach, with a more conservative legislature, we would have had a constitutional crisis, another meltdown over schools, tax policy, guns, abortion, immigration, voting rights. The fact that Chris Kobach will not be the governor in a couple of weeks in Kansas is the most impactful story.
Some people would say we might have had lower
City.
taxes, a smaller government
And
in
those
Kansas.
people would not be on the editorial page.
All righty.
Kansas City.
Dana Wright, complete the sentence. The news story Kansas City would most like to forget in 2018 was blank.
I'm going with the blatant voting debacle and suppression in Dodge City, Kansas. They moved the only polling place in the town miles away. It made national, it made international headlines. There was no reason to do it. They blamed construction, and in the end, there was no construction.
But they were providing free buses. There were Ubers that were coming for free.
Frank, I even said I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to go find all those people and say, get in, I'm taking you to vote.
Dodge City would not have been ready for Dana Wright.
They would not have.
Steve Kraske, the story we'd most like to forget?
I thought it was the duck boat tragedy down south in the Ozarks. What a difficult, sad story. We couldn't shake it for weeks around here. So totally unnecessary. You just felt for those people so much, Nick.
Stephen.
The Johnson County election voting problems, we kind of camped out there for a while, sitting in the hotel at the Collier camp. I think those problems was something definitely Ronnie Metzger wanted to forget about, and a lot of people in the area saying, how can this keep happening? How can we keep having problems with our election system?
Yeah, the most forgettable story for me was the ongoing battle over renaming the Paseo for Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
Which we still haven't actually done this year.
In fact, yesterday postponed yet again. On and on and on and on. Here's the thing, Nick. I think Kansas City wants to do the right thing and wants to find something to name for Martin Luther King Jr., but no one can figure out what it is. And we talked about it and talked about it and talked about it, and yet here we sit with nothing having been done. I think Kansas Cityans would like this to be solved and then move on.
Stephen Dial, a multiple choice question for you. Time magazine picked embattled journalists, including Slane writer Jamal Khashoggi, as their collective person of the year. If you were asked to pick the person of the year in our area, who would you be choosing? Would it be the man no one could stop talking about, Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes? Was it newly elected Congresswoman Sharice Davids, the face of Kansas City, and now coming out the door, Sly James? Is it the new governor of Kansas, Laura Kelly, or someone completely different?
I want to say Sharice Davids as someone who, a lot of people, she kind of came out of nowhere. She had some interesting funding from, according to some people, but she took a district and that had voted Democrat nationally, but Yoder kept winning that district, and she flipped that district to a blue district. But I will also say Laura Kelly, but I'll say Sharice Davids.
Dana, who did you put down?
I went a little outside the box here. I chose a few. The late Barbara Bush, John McCain, George H.W. Bush, and then Senator Bob Dole. That moment where he stood and saluted at that casket for reminding us that politics can still be a noble profession. It can still be about service. It doesn't have to be what it has become, and for that I choose Bob Dole.
And this was actually a really crowded cover that you had there on your magazine. What about you, Dave Helling?
I voted for another name that a lot of people won't recognize. It's Mark McHenry, who was with the Kansas City Parks Department for more than 40 years. He retired yesterday officially. The parks in Kansas City are so important, and he's done a great job, along with others, of maintaining them. But he's also, for me, Nick, a stand-in for all the municipal employees and county employees who work so hard to clean streets, cut grass, keep the gutters clean, keep the water flowing. They don't get enough recognition at this holiday time of the year. Mark McHenry is their representative on my list.
Stephen Kraske.
I picked someone outside the box, too, a name that no one's going to recognize. I had Chris Harris on the radio a couple of months ago. The moment I had him on, I thought he'll be my Nick Haynes Person of the Year. When we talk about this guy has raised $2.5 million to build a pitch and putt golf course, basketball courts, other recreational amenities in the Ivanhoe neighborhood on the east side of Kansas City. It's his neighborhood where he grew up. He's made a terrific contribution right in his own, literally in his own backyard. The whole neighborhood appreciates what he's done over there.
Dave Helling, fill in the blank for us. The biggest winner in Kansas City this year is blank.
The people who brought the scooters to town. When the scooters first started popping up, I go, what the hell is this? And then suddenly people are zooming by with helmets. And I mean, the bicycles didn't really work. Walking is still a problem. But boy, the scooters are huge. On a serious note, 2019 will be the year in which we have a real conversation, I think, Nick. in the battle between cars and pedestrians, broadly speaking, downtown, and the scooters are going to be a part of that. So I thought they were the biggest winner of the year.
Now, Stephen Dial, you actually reported on 97.4% of all the stories in Kansas City about scooters this year. Was that your biggest winner?
Man, he kind of stole my thunder as a scooter correspondent, remember?
Okay.
I think Bird coming in town, you know, like he said, a lot of people didn't expect that, oh, scooters are here, but a lot of people have been using them. And in a close second, I would say Laura Kelly, just from the fact of, you know, some people did not expect her to win this election.
Steve. Oh, I picked something with a giant asterisk, Nick. I think the big winners here was the east side of Kansas City. The asterisk being the money hasn't been spent yet, but lots of people, the important people in town now are talking in a way I've not seen in this community in 35 years about ways to bolster, boost, improve, renovate the east side of this community. I'm thinking that 2019 will be a bigger year for the east side. The money will actually get appropriated. Big things are starting to happen.
Dana Wright.
In a strange way, I chose our daughters. I think all of our daughters are the winner this year on the heels of the Harvey Weinstein
It's a great pick.
debacle, now Les Moonves. I watched the Brett Kavanaugh hearings with my girls, and I think this has opened a conversation for the younger women that when you go to work or when you are dating, this is appropriate behavior and this is criminal behavior and this is the difference, and speak up. And I think #MeToo has become kind of this throwaway line, Me Too. It's important for our young women to hear these stories, and I think because of that, they will be much better off than we were when we were that age.
Steve Kraske, complete this sentence, if you would, with the name of an individual, a group, an issue, or an institution. The biggest loser in Kansas City in 2018 is blank.
Well, I'm going to echo Dr. Helling. It was Chris Koster, Nick, Chris Kobach. You know, he had everything going for him as he headed into 2018. A Republican in a red state with the endorsement and the backing, the enthusiastic backing of the President of the United States, who won Kansas by 20 points. Chris Kobach still ended up losing the governor's race at year's end. He was the biggest loser.
But he could end up in Washington, D.C. in the Trump administration.
But that won't be the same thing as being governor of Kansas.
Dana Wright.
It is my great joy to agree that he is the biggest loser of the entire year and maybe the decade. I am thrilled he lost. I wept tears of joy. I would love for him to get out of here and go somewhere else. He is good at one thing, and that is losing, whether that's every court case he's ever brought with respect to immigration or the race for governor. I think we are all better off that he lost. I am beyond thrilled. I don't know where he goes from here. I
Dana,
hope it isn't here.
tell us what you really think. Stephen Dial.
I had to take a sip real quick. I think Chris Kobach, when you have the President of the United States coming to your area multiple times, campaigning for you, everyone thinking, oh, you're just a shoo-in because, like Dave was saying, the legislature becoming more conservative in a way. I think he's the biggest loser, and I don't know if there's a position for him in the Trump administration now because of some shifts and moving around. I don't know if there's a clear job for him.
But weren't people like Eric Greitens, disgraced, forced out of office, basically, Dave Helling, a bigger loser than Chris Kobach?
Well,
how about Mike Sanders, who led Jackson County government, now behind bars?
Okay, once again, Nick Haynes steals all my thunder.
Okay, all right.
Because I was about to point out how wrong my colleagues are. The loser is Mike Sanders, of course, who pled guilty to campaign-related finance crimes in federal court and is now spending more than 2 years in prison. He was a leading Democrat in the state of Missouri. He was a prosecutor, county executive, and he reflects the hubris of politicians who think they can get away with anything. He's the biggest loser, clearly, of 2018.
Dana Wright, the most over-reported story in our metro. How about that in 2018?
I'm not a fan of the song "Baby It's Cold Outside," but can we stop talking about "Baby It's Cold Outside"? That's my #1 pick overall. Period, hands down. I'm not a fan of the song. I think there's been a whole lot of ink spilled about what it means and should we be playing it. And people get really angry when you start talking about Christmas music. Who knew? I'm done hearing about it.
Stephen Dial.
I think it's, and for good reason, we reported a lot. The airport, the crew told me to say that, but no, for real. I think because an airport is your doormat, is the entrance to your city, the introduction to your city. And me, myself, being from the South, being from Atlanta, when I landed here for my interview, I was kind of like, This is your airport. I think it's going to drastically change the city, but we've been talking about it a lot.
Was that your most over-reported story, Dave?
No, I think for me, the thing we talked about the most in the 2018 campaign year was the candidacy of Greg Orman for governor in Kansas, over and over again. And as it turned out, he was never going to be competitive in that race. He probably took more votes from Chris Kobach than he did from Laura Kelly. He had some good ideas, but the only reason really we listened to him and put him in every debate and brought him to the editorial board is because he's rich. And that shows you the role that money plays in politics. That was the most over-reported story.
Steve Kraske.
Well, I'm going to echo and go with my brother Steve here. KCI, Nick. I'm supposed to care about KCI as a talk show host at KCUR, as a member of the Star editorial board, and I'm very rapidly losing interest in all things KCI, in cost overruns and bonds and construction crews. Good luck figuring it out next year. I don't want to hear much more about it.
All righty then, Stephen Dial, complete this sentence. The most underreported story of the year was blank.
I think affordable housing in our city, when we're talking about all of these apartments going up, you got 1 light, 2 light, 3 lights going to be built soon, talking about making sure that people can afford places to live in the inner core of the city, live in the city. All the city leaders want people to live downtown, live near downtown. I almost spilled my water. But I think affordable housing has not been reported enough.
Dana.
Anyone who was not Lawrence Kemmis Saeed Jamal is who I chose for the most underreported story, and here's why. He became the poster child for a broken immigration system, tried to take him away from his family and kick him out despite all of his wonderful contributions to Lawrence, to the city of Olathe. If you talk to immigration attorneys, they will say that those stories play out times 10,000 in this community week after week after week. Those are the stories you don't hear about. It is happening. The immigration system is broken. We do need to fix it. But there are a lot of people out there without the name Saeed Jamal who deserve to be recognized for going through the exact same thing. They just maybe don't have the money or the means or the attorneys to be able to do so.
The most underreported story for Steve Kraske?
Nick, the scourge of mental illness in our society's inability to come to grips with how to properly treat it. We aren't even in the ballpark in terms of really understanding what we need to do and how it needs to be treated, and providing facilities for people who need that kind of help.
Dave Helling.
The changes on the plaza in Kansas City, I think we need to have a better handle on what's going on down there. We've reported a little bit on this at the Star, but the mix of shops is changing. There are suggestions that there are infrastructure problems on the plaza. Shops are coming and going. Retail is under enormous pressure. The plaza is such an important part of the metro area in terms of an experience, and I'm not sure we're completely clear on what's going on down there. In 2019, we'll need to report
Even though
on
they got some of the biggest jewels, they just announced that Nordstrom is going to come there, potentially Nordstrom Rack coming there.
So I'm not.
We also have Shake Shack coming to the plaza.
Right. I'm suggesting that it's not bad or good. It's just different, and we need to understand that. There are discussions of new apartments and some other things in the area. So we just have to pay attention. That's such an important part of Kansas City.
That's a good one.
There's a big fight, as you know, over replacing the church down there. That'll be a big issue. So I just think we need to focus on this part of Kansas City in 2019.
Steve Kraske, our next section is called Pick a Gift. Now, it sounds simple enough. You are responsible for giving a gift to one metro area public figure this holiday season. But who would receive the gift? And when he or she hastily breaks open that wrapping paper, what would the gift be?
I love the music.
I would give a clean bill of health, Nick, to Jason Kander, the former mayoral candidate, the former Missouri Secretary of State. He's got such an incredible future, a bright future. I wish him and his family nothing but the best this holiday season. We hope to see him back out in public next year.
Dana Wright, you've just purchased a gift, and who are you giving it to and why?
I would also say props to him, by the way, for opening up and being honest about mental health issues. I would like to give the entire city of Garden City, Missouri, a police department, because in the dark of night, without public comment, they just decided we're not going to have one. And they don't. And that debacle is still ongoing, and I do believe they need police protection. I think if you ask Cass County, they would agree.
How topical you are this week, Dana. Stephen Dial, what gift were you giving out of you as you dipped into your pocketbook and wrapped it up?
I dipped into my pockets, and it's only about $30, well, depending on what you get. It's a bottle of whiskey, and it's for outgoing Senator Claire McCaskill. She had a long campaign. She contemplated not running. I know she's done. She's made a lot of vocal comments since her exit, and I think she'll want to share that bottle without going Marisol James because he's ready to go.
Dana,
Two gifts. First,
Dave Helling, rather.
Two gifts. I want to give everybody in Kansas City a digital subscription to the Kansas City Star. If you call now, no, the real gift is to Jean Peters Baker, the prosecutor, who is now also the chairman of the Democratic Party in Missouri. She takes that job at a time when the party is in worse shape maybe than it's ever been, certainly in my professional lifetime. I want to get her one of those desktop calendars so she can keep all of her jobs straight. She's got to rebuild the party, and she's the prosecutor in one of the most dangerous counties in the United States of America. She will be busy in 2019.
Let's look now to the start of this brand spanking new year. Dana Wright, complete this sentence. I don't own a crystal ball. But if I did, this is what I'd see happening in our metro in 2019.
I think the city and general metropolitan area is going to lose its ever-loving mind during the playoffs. I hope that we bring home a win. If we don't, it's fine. Everyone's still going to love Patrick Mahomes. I think that will continue to be one of the biggest stories in 2019, and we're all so excited to watch it play out.
Stephen Dial.
She's stealing all my juice.
Oh, she
has? Oh, wow.
Patrick Mahomes mania. I mean, the Super Bowl is in my hometown of Atlanta. I think Kansas City is ready for another parade. I don't know if they'll get it, but it will be huge, and I would love to be able to go to Atlanta to cover the Super Bowl. So I hope my managers are watching.
Safest prediction I've ever made, and by the way, I've made some bad ones on this show. I thought Kevin Yoder was going to win. I think I said that a year ago, so my record isn't very strong, but this is a safe prediction. Construction at the airport will begin in 2019. They will put up fences. They will start tearing down Terminal A. That project will finally get underway. There have been stops and starts, and there will probably be more arguing about it, but the hammer will start to swing at KCI in 2019.
Well, I was going to say Super Bowl also, but I'm also going to say I think this Kansas City streetcar system will, in fact, get the federal money it needs to begin construction on the extension out to the Country Club Plaza and UMKC. It needs to happen. Our congressional delegation is very much on board here, with Sam Graves now leading a key House committee on transportation. It's going to happen, Nick.
How much are these predictions worth, by the way? We took a look back at what our panelists said on last year's show. Were they right?
No, they
You
were
be
not.
the judge.
Nick, Kansans are going to elect a Democratic governor in 2018, and that governor is going to be the only woman candidate in the field, a Democrat. Her name is Laura Kelly.
First of all, I think the Royals are going to be competitive. We'll see. The other thing is, I think voters in Kansas City may reject the capital improvement sales tax on the April ballot.
True or false, in 2018, Sam Brownback will still be governor of Kansas.
True, when the year begins.
Okay.
No, I think it's true for the whole year.
True or false, Chris Kobach is elected governor of Kansas.
I think he will lose in the primary.
Claire McCaskill wins re-election to the U.S. Senate.
I think true.
True. Oh, I agree with my brother.
Congressman Kevin Yoder loses his bid for re-election.
I think Kevin Yoder's going to lose. I think he's the most endangered incumbent in the metro.
I said false. I think he will win.
So there you have it. How much stock do you think, ladies and gentlemen, we should be in our panelists' crystal ball gazing for 2019? It's always redeeming, though, to start with the presumption of good faith. So let's head next to our lightning-fast true or false round before the buzzer blows. True or false, in 2019, the Kansas City Council drops Edgemoor and picks a new KCI design team.
False. They're going to stick with Edgemoor because it's far too late in the game to try and change it now. If they did it, we'd push it back 2 years. We'll see. It's false.
Does everybody agree with that?
It's false.
Everybody
False.
said, okay.
Yeah.
True or false? Jolie Justice is elected the new mayor of Kansas City.
True.
I think that's false.
True.
I think it's false, but I don't know who the person elected will be because the field really hasn't.
I'm going to go with true because he's always wrong.
Why do you feel the way you do about that?
I think, and some voters might not care, her getting out and getting back in, that may make some people question.
No, people understood what was going on, their dynamics with Jason Kander. I think she's a formidable frontrunner as of we sit here today, Nick.
True or false? Kansas Senator Pat Roberts announces he will not seek re-election.
True.
True.
False.
True.
Actually, he may become the new police chief in Garden City.
There's an opening.
Okay, all right.
I think he'll wander out in a couple weeks and go, you know what? I've got another 6 years in me.
Does that mean Greg Orman will get back in? Okay, true or false? On February 3rd, the Chiefs win the Super Bowl at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta?
True.
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 Don't say true.
True.
No, go for it.
I don't want him saying true. It's true.
Okay. True or false? Sly James announces his candidacy for the United States Congress.
False.
False.
Not
False.
yet.
That's not going to happen.
I thought there was an effort that Emmanuel Cleaver may step down and he would take.
There's
that
always
position.
an effort to have Emmanuel Cleaver step
Okay,
down, but he's not going to
you
do it.
don't think that's going to happen,
Congressman
even though
Cleaver
he's leaving
remains
office?
Very popular. He's not going anywhere for at least for a few more years.
Okay, true or false? Jason Kander announces he's running for Missouri governor.
False.
True.
It's possible, isn't it?
It's possible. Now, if he'll win, that's another thing.
Okay.
No, I think it's false. I think he's spending some time doing what he thinks he needs to do, and a governor's race would be difficult. And by the way, he might lose. Governor Mike Parson was on my short list for Man of the Year, or Person of the Year in Kansas City. He's done everything right so far. He's got a few problems. Off to a great start. It's a
Even though you're now
Republican-
blasting him for choosing white male in state elected positions.
Well, he needs to think about that, but that doesn't take away his accomplishments so far.
And it's a Republican state, and I think Jason Kander gets that.
I'm going to say true when he's ready.
All righty, we are out of time. Thank you for being such terrific guests. They say the root of joy is gratefulness, and I'm grateful to our panelists who give of their time and their talents every week for $0. She is 50% of Dana and Parks weekdays from 2 to 6 on 98.1 KMBZ Dana Wright, and every day in the Kansas City Star. Dave Helling from behind the microphone at KCUR, where he hosts Up to Date weekdays from 11 to noon, Steve Kraske, and from the television studios of 41 Action News, reporter Stephen Dial. And I'm grateful to you for caring enough about this place we call home that you watch each week. Thank you. We're now going to deck the halls of KCPT with boughs of holly. We'll see you in the new year. And because some people get upset if I don't say it, thanks for spending part of your weekend with us.